All right, let's talk here about let's talk about apparently today Peter Dutton in the party room, and I know you can't possibly talk about matters to do with the party room, but leaks out of the party room or briefings out of the party room. I think the leaks kind of went when Malcolm and Julie and Chris, and, when they all disappeared. But still, supposedly Peter Dutton's position now is, rather than finding ways to work with the government or to help the government get what it wants to be done, that now the position is going to be no free passes. So we're seeing that with things like, say, the Reserve Bank stuff, and we're seeing that with stuff like the aged care stuff. Now, obviously, the government will turn this into sort of the Dr. No stuff, but, Hollie, reality is it is 50-50 in the polls. Why would you give the other side a free kick right now?
Look, I think that's right. You know, I think there is at the moment in the Senate, again, it's not in the House of Representatives, it's in the Senate. That is where the legislation is going to ultimately be passed or not. And whilst I agree that we are not here to just pass things that the government wants passed without any overview and some real, really looking into some of the things that they're proposing, which of course we know that the government is completely limiting any sort of review by committees into their legislation. The danger is, and I think this is particularly important when it comes to the RBA, is do we as a country really want the Greens in any way dictating this policy? And at the end of the day, if we can't find a compromise with the government, it's going to end up with the, Joe might tell us they're not going to form a coalition with the Greens, but they're already looking to do it. I think there's a real risk, and that's where I think there does need to be strong leadership from the economic team in their ability to negotiate, because if Jim Chalmers starts going to negotiate with Adam Bandt, it's going to be every Australian that pays for a very long time to come if something as fundamental as the RBA is allowed to be turned into a political hatchet job run by the Labor Party.
Well, let alone the fact of, does anyone then want either Lydia Thorpe or Lambie or Pocock to be the one who's making the final touches and changes here on something of such consequence? Andrew Clennell was the one who had this story today, so let's have a look at his reporting.
This week is the story of a frustrated agenda for the government. And we've seen that with aged care, we've seen that with the RBA, and Peter Dutton is seeking to pile the pressure on the government. Last time we sat, we saw things like the CFMEU and NDIS get through. Not so this week. They're getting no free passes.
What's your sense of this?
Yeah, I think Hollie's absolutely right. I think it might be good sort of tactics and good politics to frustrate the government and force it to do deals with the Greens, but it is poor strategy and poor policy. The only reason Adam Bandt is in the parliament is because Liberal Party preferences put him there. They preferenced him, and the Liberals, to their credit, I think have all learned from that mistake. And Labor was stupid enough to do a deal with the Greens in 2010 as well. So they have learned from that as well. I mean, the idea, Nick McKim and the Greens' idea that the government should be able to effectively dictate interest rates, that politicians should be able to say what it is terrifying. I mean, this is the sort of command economy run in Stalinist Russia and communist China. I mean, I don't think Chalmers or the Labor Party would ever, in a blue moon, even consider or countenance that. But the fact that it's on the table, though, just gives you an idea of just how economically illiterate and extreme and ideologically extreme the Greens are. I mean, these are people who have no concept of economics and just a purely extreme doctrinaire ideological dogma that they slavishly adhere to. And it is terrifying to think, for the sake of this country, that you would ever do an economic deal with them.